My name is Lauren Mitchell, and for a long time I believed that if I kept my head down, delivered results, and made the company money, recognition would eventually follow, because that's the myth corporate America sells people like me, especially women who don't shout in meetings but let the numbers speak instead. I worked at Calderon Dynamics for 8 years, steadily climbing from account analyst to senior client strategist. And in my final year there, I brought in 3 major enterprise clients back to back, the kind of deals executives brag about on earnings calls, the kind that stabilize budgets and secure bonuses for people who never sat across from a nervous client at midnight answering questions just to close the deal. Those 3 projects alone increased annual revenue by nearly $14 million, and I led every negotiation, every presentation, every crisis call, while my director, Mark Holloway, nodded silently in meetings and later repeated my talking points as if they were his own. So when annual review season came around, I walked into that meeting calm and confident, not asking for praise, just a fair raise that reflected the value I had clearly proven. Mark didn't even look uncomfortable when he told me the budget was tight, that raises were being restructured, and that I should be grateful for the exposure the project gave me. And when I asked why my name wasn't even mentioned in the internal recognition email celebrating the wins, he smiled and said, "You're a team player, Lauren. Teams don't need individual rewards." Something clicked in that moment. Not anger, not bitterness, just clarity, because I realized my loyalty wasn't being rewarded, it was being exploited. I didn't argue, didn't escalate, didn't threaten to quit. Instead, I thanked him for his honesty and went back to my desk, quietly making a decision that would change everything. Over the next few weeks, I stopped doing the invisible work that had kept my clients loyal, the late-night reassurance calls, the proactive risk mitigation, the unofficial troubleshooting that never appeared on any job description but made all the difference. I still did my job, just no longer the unpaid emotional labor that held fragile relationships together. Around the same time, 2 of my biggest clients reached out directly, not with complaints, but with concerns. Communication had slowed, small issues were escalating, and the confidence they once felt was slipping. I answered professionally, but without overstepping my role, because I had learned that when a company refuses to acknowledge your value, the most powerful response isn't sabotage, it's withdrawal. Within a month, one client requested a formal review of their account management, another delayed contract expansion, and the third began taking exploratory meetings with a competitor, something they had never done before. Internally, leadership panicked, scrambling to understand why accounts that had been rock solid were suddenly unstable, and Mark was suddenly in meetings all day trying to patch cracks he didn't understand because he had never actually managed those relationships himself. HR reached out to me casually, asking if everything was okay with my workload, and I knew the shift had begun. The breaking point came when the largest of the 3 clients requested that I personally attend a meeting they had scheduled with Calderon's executive team, and during that call, the client's CFO asked a question that made the room go silent. Why is the person who built this relationship being excluded from strategic decisions? No one had an answer. 2 weeks later, that client announced they were moving their business elsewhere, citing loss of confidence in leadership continuity, and the dominoes fell fast after that, with the second client following within a month, and the third scaling back to a minimal contract. Suddenly, the same leadership that couldn't find room in the budget for my raise was losing millions in projected revenue, and the narrative shifted from tight budgets to unexpected market volatility. I was called into a meeting with HR and senior leadership where they asked carefully if I would consider staying on and helping stabilize the remaining accounts, this time with a revised compensation package. And I listened politely before declining, because by then I had already accepted an offer elsewhere with a company that didn't just value results, but respected the people behind them. My last day at Calderon was quiet. No farewell email, no acknowledgement of the clients I had brought in, or the damage done by ignoring the people who build trust instead of PowerPoints. 6 months later, Calderon announced layoffs due to strategic restructuring, and Mark's name quietly disappeared from the leadership page, while I watched from the distance, settled into a role where my contributions were measured, rewarded, and recognized. The lesson wasn't that revenge needs to be loud or cruel. It's that when companies deny your worth after you've proven it, the market has a way of correcting the imbalance, and sometimes the most satisfying justice is simply letting the truth play out without you standing in the way.